Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the North Phoenix Chamber of Commerce candidate interviews. I am blessed and grateful to be spending a few minutes now with Justin Wilmeth. Hello, Justin. How are you, sir?
Good, sir. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. You are running for Legislative District 2, House of Representatives
Yes,
here
that's
in.
that's correct. It's the old 15 was carved into about 4 or 5 districts, and
Yep.
so 15 minus 13 equals 2, and here we are.
What happened to 13? That wasn't up in this
No,
area
I
though.
just
So
I
that's
just made that
that's
up. I
great
don't.
math.
Does that
That's good
sound good? I
math.
don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So the new
basically,
L.
we're the old. For those playing score at home, we're the old like central part of the old 15, and we're the northeastern part of the old 20, with a very small amount of the old 28 in the southeast part. And
Okay, so you picked up
start
a
at
little bit
Thunderbird
of.
and move north.
Yeah, a little bit of each of the three that
Yep,
used to be our chamber space. And now I've got 8 relationships to manage instead of 3.
that sounds
Um,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. No, this is actually good news. So with the redistricting, you're now in LD2. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Um, so I'm looking forward to the next few minutes that we spend together. These interviews, as you'll see, are designed for literally just you and me to have a quick conversation. I've got the same 4 questions that I'm asking every single candidate that has agreed to spend time on this format. I'm asking everyone the same 4 questions about, in particular, about the business perspective and the economy and the small business environment, because that's really my audience here at the North Phoenix Chamber. And we are posting these interviews up on our website and on our YouTube channel to help the business community make informed decisions in November, uh, and have them have a chance to hear your perspective. Hopefully, they haven't mailed in a ballot yet, and they're still holding on, and they'll you'll have a chance to sway some votes possibly today. So we're going to jump right into the 4 questions.
Good deal.
Um, So I'd like to start out with what differentiates you from your opponents, or from your opponent from a business perspective in particular.
Well, first off, thanks for having me.
Mhm.
I'm very honored to be here and to take the questions, obviously. I would say the biggest difference is that I'm pro business. A lot of the folks on the left think that businesses are all evil and that they either must be destroyed or pay some sort of pound of flesh or whatever it is. And I am a small government, rising tide of all boats kind of conservative guy. I've always looked at my mission in my career, which before I was a member, I was a legislative staffer. So I've dealt with the levers of government off and on for a while now. And I've seen time and again, the best thing to do is to get out of your guys' way. And to do that, we need to have the right level of regulation, hopefully as small as possible. Get the right guardrails in place for you guys to do your business and prosper and serve your communities and hire people and keep everybody employed. And it's just a big, wonderful circle of life.
Mhm.
Um, and for me, the biggest difference is I'm friendly toward that overall cause, and I'm not going to come after any business for any reason or force them to do things that are not in their best interest.
Right. Fantastic. So, Justin, do you have any legislative plans for this coming session when you win the seat back to implement that you want to impact businesses in this district, obviously statewide as well? Is there any legislation that you're considering proposing this next session, or anything that you think needs repealed that's in our way of running our businesses?
Well, look, in a general sense, there's plenty of stuff that we can go on and repeal. And I've had the pleasure of being on the Commerce Committee for the last 2 years. I
Mhm.
hope to be on that committee again. I really enjoyed the overall topical nature of it and the kinds of subjects that come through because you get a mixed bag of everything.
Mhm.
You go from the liquor omnibus bills to things that will impact businesses in North Phoenix and wherever else in the state. So I want to get through November 8th. I am having some conversations on some ideas, but I'm a bit of a baseball fan, so I'm going to play the superstition card until the 9th. But just know that I will be involved heavily in pro commerce, pro economic development ideas for North Phoenix and for the whole state, because North Phoenix is a small little 9 mile by 14 mile section, LD2, of the entire state. So that's a very serious, along with some transportation issues. Those are the kinds of things that I want to look at and make sure that the economic environment will stay positive, because we're gaining 200 people a day in this state. And that means business is good. And that means we've been doing good things. So for
Mhm.
me, the big mission is to just, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Let's keep pushing forward on what's gotten us this far and keep on keeping on.
Right. You just touched on something too. Fact that we still have folks coming to the valley every day, a couple at the rate of a couple hundred. We obviously have something solid about our economy that continues to attract. Do you have any perspective on things you can do for economic growth or development uh, to help improve even more? I mean, there's a lot of things that are outside of our control, outside of North Phoenix
Right.
economy. But
Well,
as
you know,
local as
we're
we can keep it.
yeah, there's plenty we can do. We're also, unfortunately, we're kind of beholden to what DC does and some of their hijinks and things like that. So
Mhm.
we can control a decent amount, but there's still stuff above us that happens that we're impacted by, and that I can't do a whole lot about. But as it relates on the state level, we can kind of tack like, the America's Cup, where you kind of cut somebody off with the wind and stuff. We can kind of tack the federal government in certain ways with our own regulations,
Mhm.
hopefully the lack thereof, getting rid of certain things that are hindering businesses and allowing the economic growth to continue. The economic environment here is so amazing. There's reasons that TSMC is moving up here. There's reasons that Intel was here.
Mhm.
We get conversations and rumors every day about new companies that want to come here because of our environment. And so by the environment, I literally mean the environment. The weather's great. So aside
Mhm.
from that 3 or 4 month period where it's pretty hellish outside, we're just now at the very beginning, right now as we speak, the start of this 8 month period where the weather's going to be really, really great until the end of May. And, there's a lot of people in other parts of the country where it's the exact opposite, where they get 8 months of terrible weather. And so don't think for a moment that that doesn't impact us positively.
Mhm.
Now, the tie in, so people will be attracted to come here as the weather, but they're going to stick around because of the low tax environment, because of the low red tape environment. I was happy to be one of the members that voted for the 2.5% flat tax for personal income. That's going to keep people here when companies come here, because make no mistake, even though that wasn't about the company side of things, that impacts our employees. And it's much easier to recruit good talent from anywhere in the country.
Yeah,
You come to a state and say, hey, you're not going to lose your entire paycheck to the state of Arizona. And
absolutely.
that's the kind of stuff that we're going to keep working on as it's prudent to keep looking at ways to lowering those taxes wherever we can. And in fact, the surplus was so big that we were able to accelerate that tax cut by a year. So it started this year
Mhm.
instead of next year, which is pretty phenomenal. So you're already seeing a very positive result from legislation that we literally just got through in the last year.
Right. I also think the infrastructure has an impact as well. When people can move around, the transportation, the freeway system is in good shape and everything else around infrastructure. That has a huge impact as well. And you touched on the fact that you were on the transportation committee.
Yes, sir, I was.
So, anything that you'd like to share, maybe about some impact you've had in that role and on that committee within the past session or upcoming?
Yeah, so I mean, there's always a lot going on. I know it's kind of cool for people to complain about, streets are not very good. Look, there's some parts of interior Phoenix, like along Indian School, that are a nightmare, but for the most part, the streets in Phoenix and the surrounding cities are very, very nice. And the freeways are first rate.
Okay.
The fact that I call the 51 my own personal wormhole when I go down to the Capitol, because I know almost by the minute when I leave my house how long it's going to take.
Mhm.
And that's a testament to the freeway grid that we have. I can get downtown in 25 minutes from LD2 here, 101 and 51 intersection. It's pretty phenomenal. Other
Yeah.
cities don't have that you can go 25 miles in 30 minutes. It's more rare than it should be, but here it's commonplace.
For being the
Uh,
fifth largest city in the country, by the way.
right. So Maricopa County has 4.5 million people in it,
Hmm.
um, but the population density is spread out, and that's a testament to how this city was built in the 70s and 80s when the growth became so fast paced. They started thinking ahead, like, well, where should we put new freeways and highways and things like that? So obviously, all of that happened. years and years ago. But the reason that the traffic is still largely pretty good outside of the rush hours
Mhm.
is because we thought 25, 30 years ahead on that.
Yeah.
And so those are kind of big picture things. Small picture thing that I had a direct involvement in was getting appropriations money into this year's budget for a sound wall at the 101 and 16th Street, where if anybody in our area drives around that, they'll notice that the
Mhm.
southwest corner is barren and there's houses and neighborhoods right there, and the other three corners don't have houses directly next to it. In my video I just posted on my website, I called it a bureaucratic oversight, and really what happened there was that at that point, that neighborhood directly across from Beardsley, which is the frontage road there, was
Mhm.
zoned for commercial. And so the sound metrics didn't trigger the need for a sound wall at the time. So
Ah.
this is the full story here. So moving at the speed of government, like the sloth in Zootopia, um, they started that freeway expansion there of the 101 without a sound wall there because it didn't meet some bureaucratic metric of sound, decibel level.
Okay.
Along the way, that area was rezoned residential. And of course, we're always needing housing supplies. So that area gets gobbled up very quickly. And then we have a
Okay.
bunch of new residents in our district that are like, oh my gosh, this is loud. I can't stand this. So basically, ADOT just does what they're told. And it's up to guys like me to say, no, you're going to do this. They say, oh, well, it doesn't meet this random metric. And I'm like, well, maybe it didn't before, but it does now because there's people that live all the way up next to the freeway that weren't there 5 years ago.
Right.
So that project was put into this year's budget, which began on July 1st. So the funding is coming online for that. And the project, I'm told, will begin in January, early 23, and be done June, July. So it's the government, so probably September, but it's going to happen. And that's just a little thing that doesn't seem like a lot to somebody driving along the freeway, but to those people that live there, and I've
Right.
walked that area, I've heard it. It's a big deal,
Yeah.
and those sound walls do make a difference. And so by middle next year, you're going to have the sound wall go all the way from the entry of 7th Avenue all the way over the bridge to 16th Street, where there is a sound wall to the open mountain that has no houses next to it.
Right.
So that's
But it has a
government
really
for
nice
you.
sound wall.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's got the nice designs on it and stuff, but
Yeah.
it opens up to a mountain. And
Mhm.
so why that part triggered the need for a sound wall and not the southwest corner, look, I'll never really know. But it's nice that we were able to find a solution to it and get funding secured for it. And it's because when you've got good representation that knows the appropriations chair and can make a lobby for it, that's how stuff gets done down there.
Yeah. And personally, I really, really, really appreciate it because I live about 400 yards south of, 400 feet, I guess, south of the freeway, right there at that spot. I'm sitting there
Um,
without the wall. So this has been a battle for my neighborhood for many years. Thank you. Thank you.
it,
Thank you for being a big part of that.
You're
Um,
welcome, and I know it'll be hot next summer when it gets done, but next fall you'll be able to enjoy your patio a little bit more. And
yeah.
I'm glad that that can happen because like I'm not in this for any reason, but I just love policy and helping people. And while that might seem like a small thing,
Right.
look at what it's going to do to your life and your
Right.
neighbors' lives. It's going to make it a better community to live in, and that's all I really care about.
Right. There's actually a multifamily complex on that property closest to that intersection at 16th and Beardsley that I think is what you're talking about was
Yeah.
not zoned residential 5 years ago, but
Mhm.
has families living in that space now. So interesting
Yeah.
how things at the speed of government move, right?
And and so ADOT, I have friends at ADOT. They did their job. That. They're not
Right.
out to get us up here in North Phoenix. It
Right.
didn't meet a certain number, and they said it's not going to happen because they get a lot of the budget to do that area, and that expansion was not cheap, and it didn't fit the metric, and it didn't go in. But
Right.
that's where guys like me can go down there and say, I get it, but this needs to be addressed. And then we
Right.
push it in the budget and we tell them, and it's an earmark, and it says this money has to go toward this. And they're like little construction ants. I'll just be like, yes, sir, and move on down the road, and they'll do it. So that problem is going to be fixed.
Very cool. Very cool. Fighting for your constituents. I appreciate it.
That's all you can do.
The last question I have for you, question number 4 here is there anything else that you want to share with us that you would like the business owners and business professionals in North Phoenix in particular to hear about your candidacy and why they should be supporting. If there's anything we haven't already touched on, because you've covered an awful lot of why we should be supporting you. So,
Yeah, well, again, thank you for having me. I would tell anybody that is a business leader, a business person in North Phoenix, is that I'm a conduit for you. I am not a businessman. I know I don't have that cut out for me, but that's not my job. My job is to advocate for good regulations, lower taxes across the board, and freer economic principles for you guys to go and prosper. And I can be helpful for that in any number of ways. This is my first term. I'm shooting for my second, so I've been a member now for 2 years. But before that, I was a policy advisor at the Arizona House for 2 years, and I've worked in legislative government for over 12, the other 10 being in Oklahoma before I moved here. So I say all that to say is that I understand the levers of power in the government, and everybody down there needs to have an understanding of how to get stuff done. As I mentioned with the sound wall, those are conversations that are had. Those aren't even bills. And so you have to understand the overall framework of budget discussions. As somebody with my background and experience, I can do that rather quickly and efficiently. So I would tell anybody that's listening or watching this that I'm a huge business and commerce advocate, and I know how to go down there and get the job done for you. And you can tell me what you're facing as a business, and I can go down there and convey that and try to be helpful however I can. And I am hopeful to be back on those two same committees next year on commerce and transportation. So those are very, very important committees. And if you don't have good transportation, products can't get to market. And if you don't have good commerce, nobody wants to come to your store, and they won't know about you. So all of that stuff works in concert. And I'm the man in the middle, tasks with making it work as well as I can. And that's what I would tell anybody watching this, is that I can do that effectively more than anybody else's LD2 house race.
fantastic. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time today and
Thank you.
20 minutes or so that we spent
Perfect.
on this call. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. One more question. I keep forgetting to ask this. I will put this up on the lower third. How do you want folks to get a hold of you?
Of course. Yes. Got to sell the website, man. JustinWilmethAZ.com, which is also the handles for Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. So if you do Facebook.com/JustinWilmethAZ, Twitter @JustinWilmethAZ, you'll find me. And then you can connect with me those ways and I'll respond. We'll go get coffee or something.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I'll have that published up here on the bottom of the video. So
Perfect.
thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Hey,
Appreciate
thank you,
you.
man. Talk to you later.